The atmosphere inside the arena was electric as the lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and the ring announcer's voice echoed with the announcement everyone had been waiting for. Now give us a like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you're always in the loop. The following contest is scheduled for one fall, and it is for the Intercontinental Championship. The fans in attendance knew they were about to witness a high-stakes clash between two of WWE's most technically gifted superstars, a match layered with personal animosity, professional jealousy, and the kind of intensity only championship gold can bring. First out was the challenger, representing Alpha Academy and accompanied by his allies Maxine Dupri and Otis. From Minneapolis, Minnesota, weighing in at 202 pounds, he was introduced as Chad Gable. The reaction was a mixture of cheers and boos, as Gable walked with a determined look on his face, his Olympic background and decorated tag team history preceding him. While the record books showed him as a multi-time tag team champion, what lingered in his career résumé was the painful reality that he had never once captured a singles championship in WWE. That void gnawed at him, and tonight he hoped to change it. The commentary team wasted no time emphasizing what was at stake, with one voice noting that Gable, a legitimate former U.S. Olympian, had everything it takes to be at the very top of the wrestling world. Another pointed out how Gable's inability to break free of baggage, constantly carrying the Alpha Academy dynamic, constantly having to shepherd Otis and Maxine, may have prevented him from already being a singles champion several times over. As his entrance theme played, Gable strutted with purpose, his eyes locked on the squared circle, and the crowd sensed they were seeing the most dangerous version of Chad Gable yet. Then came the eruption, the true roar of the evening, as the Intercontinental Champion made his entrance. Hailing from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, weighing in at 212 pounds, he was none other than Sami Zayn. The fans sang along with his entrance music, raising the decibel levels through the roof, their voices unified in support of a champion who has captured the hearts of the WWE Universe with his mix of underdog resilience, fiery promos, and sheer willpower. Commentary reminded viewers of Sami's biggest career moment earlier this year, the night he ended Gunther's record-setting 666-day reign as Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania, becoming the man who finally slayed the unstoppable ring general. Interestingly, one commentator added that Sami had been trained by Chad Gable before that monumental match, igniting speculation about the psychology driving tonight's contest. In fact, there was even a theory floated by commentary that Gable, unable to dethrone Gunther himself despite multiple attempts, had deliberately prepared Sami to do so at WrestleMania. The reasoning, according to this theory, was that Gable believed beating Sami for the championship would be easier than beating Gunther. But that plan, if it was a plan, had backfired spectacularly. Sami had retained against Gable in Montreal, humiliating the Olympian in front of his own family, and since then Gable's demeanor had darkened. Now, the two were set for another clash, and the tension between them was palpable. As the bell rang, the opening moments were tense but respectful, with both men locking up in a collar and elbow tie-up. Gable, the technical wizard, immediately sought control, testing Sami's defenses and reminding everyone that when it comes to pure mat wrestling, few can rival him. Sami, however, was no slouch, and his quick counters demonstrated why he is a champion who has thrived against larger, stronger, and more brutal opponents. The commentators marveled at the skill on display, noting that while Gable often seemed obsessed and bitter about his failures, there was no denying his brilliance inside the ring. Yet, alongside his brilliance was his arrogance. Every time Gable gained control, he couldn't resist barking instructions at Otis or Maxine at ringside, treating them like students in a classroom instead of teammates in a unit. Sami tried to use his quickness to change the momentum, but Gable's strategy was clear: target a weakness and exploit it ruthlessly. Early on, Gable feinted repeatedly for the ankle lock, knowing Zayn would have it scouted, and then pivoted to attack Sami's left arm, a body part plagued with injuries and surgeries in the past. Twisting, wrenching, and striking at the shoulder, Gable began dismantling the champion systematically, drawing pained expressions from Sami and worried chants from the crowd. Meanwhile, Otis looked conflicted at ringside, his loyalty torn between his longtime mentor Gable and the nagging sense planted by Sami that he could be more if he broke free. This tension was exploited repeatedly on commentary, with one announcer insisting Sami had been trying to sow division in Alpha Academy, while another argued that Gable himself was gaslighting Otis and Maxine, demanding loyalty while showing little respect. The match escalated as Sami attempted to rally, his heart and resilience shining through. He landed a Michinoku driver, even with one arm barely functional, a move that had the fans on their feet as he nearly scored the pinfall. But Gable's ring IQ was on full display, constantly baiting Sami, constantly luring him into mistakes before countering with suplexes, submissions, and even a devastating diving headbutt from the top rope that nearly ended the bout. Each time Sami kicked out, the frustration grew on Gable's face. The match became a war of attrition, with both men trading German suplexes, each refusing to let go of their grip, each trying to outlast the other. The crowd gasped as Gable landed on his head in a particularly dangerous exchange, but he fought through the pain, channeling his fury into a cross-face submission that had Sami screaming in agony in the middle of the ring. Yet Sami, ever the survivor, countered into his own crossface, flipping the pressure back onto Gable. The match had now evolved into a test of who wanted it more, who could endure more punishment, and who could outthink the other. But Gable had one more card to play, and that was the ankle lock. When he finally trapped Sami in the center of the ring, wrenching back with all his might, it looked like the end. Sami's face was twisted in pain, his leg and arm both compromised, his body seemingly ready to give in. The challenger screamed at him to tap, but Sami rolled through with a desperate counter, nearly pinning Gable in a shocking reversal. From there, the drama only escalated. Outside interference almost came into play, with Gable demanding Maxine hand him the championship belt and berating her when she hesitated. At one point, Sami nearly hit her with a hell of a kick by accident, creating a chaotic moment that Gable tried to capitalize on with his patented chaos theory suplex. He hooked the legs and went for the pin, certain he had won, but Sami kicked out at the very last second, breaking Gable's heart and sending the Scottish crowd into a frenzy. Gable, unhinged and screaming, ordered Otis to help, but Otis hesitated, torn apart by the conflict of loyalty. When he finally acted, it backfired, leaving Sami an opening to recover. The finish saw Gable miss a top rope moonsault, giving Sami the chance to rally. Even with his arm and leg compromised, Sami dug deep, summoning the energy of the fans. He hit an exploder suplex into the corner, setting up for the hell of a key.